Let's talk about Joe Rogan, shall we? He at least makes a little bit more sense to me now that I know more about him. Joe is most recently making headlines because Spotify chose him over Neil Young, who removed his entire music catalog from Spotify in protest of the misinformation being spread on the Joe Rogan Experience. So how the fuck did we get here? Joe was born in Newark, New Jersey, and witnessed a lot of domestic violence in his youth. He was 5 when his parents divorced, 7 when he and his mother moved to San Francisco. She remarried, and that guy smoked pot with Joe at age 8. They eventually relocated to the Boston area, where Joe got into martial arts and actually got really good. Suffering from headaches, he stopped when he was 21 to avoid further injury. He held a few odd jobs and then got into stand-up comedy. He got his big break on news radio, then hosted Fear Factor as well as The Man Show. Started his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, in 2009, and sold it to Spotify for $100 million. On his podcast, he talks a good bit about the alternative medicines that he champions, including ivermectin, cannabis, that fixes thousands of things, as well as psychedelics, especially DMT. He also claims he takes testosterone on a weekly basis, human growth hormone, new vigil for fighter pilots, and smoothies. Beyond that, he's a conspiracy theorist, including the US government planning the 9/11 attacks, as well as controlling the weather. He does say that flat Earth is bullshit and a stupid fucking theory, and that Google is your friend. I wonder why he distrusts authority so much. Joe doesn't talk about his dad much, but what he did say: I don't hate the guy, I just don't want to be involved with him. He was very nice to me, loved me, but he was super, super violent and would have turned me into a fucking psychopath. Can you imagine? Now, I know Joe doesn't want to talk about his dad, but I think we should. I think this is why his podcast is so relatable. How many layers and generations of toxic masculinity are there in his story alone? And how much does that really resonate with his audience? Because it's a lot. Of course, he capitalizes on all of this through his podcast directly, as well as his apparel line. I was surprised by the masks and inspired by Conquer Your Inner Bitch. Because of course all those issues are your inner bitch that you're gonna conquer. Might I suggest we try conquering our inner Joe Rogan instead? While I do agree that some of Joe's self-prescribed therapies do have their place, most can also be used to escape issues you don't want to face. For me, a true free thinker really wants to think about, unpack, and address these issues, instead of burying them and building a massive audience just to agree with you.